Well, hello, everybody. Here you are, the chapter you've been looking for, the last one in the book. Now, granted, it's instant command system, or management, I should say. You won't have a whole lot of questions about it, but if I don't cover it, you'll have quite a few. So we'd rather you have err on the side of judgment and go ahead and go over it versus having you go over it yourself. So disaster mass casualty incidents, are also known as MCIs, can be overwhelming. Technically, by definition, it's three or more patients or a lack of resources, like enough ambulances, ground support, as well as air support. The ICS, which is the Incident Command System, makes it possible to do the greatest good for the greatest number. No matter where you go, whether it's in South San Texas, South San Antonio, North Texas, Florida, California, they all follow the same incident command system. NIMS promotes efficient coordination of emergency incidents at the regional, state, and national levels. We follow the same guidelines. You'll end up taking what they call the ICS 100, 300, and 700 in your career. It's not anything out of your pocket. It's usually an online course. Sometimes they do it in-house where you do a lot of practice roles. It's implemented in 2004, provides a framework to establish federal, state, and local governments to work together. Includes private sectors, such as Acadian, citywide EMS. All the local EMS services also have to follow the same NCIS management system. Organizational structures must be flexible enough to be rapidly adaptable. Uh, you're going to use the same terminology. You're going to use the same resource classification, personal training, and certifications. They're going to take the same test you are at this level. They're going to have the same training you are at this level. So this is like I said, national standard, but it is not just national, it's also federal and state as well as local. Major NIMS components: communication and information management, resource management, and command and management. Basically, you're going to have a starting point, or the boss or the person in charge of the incident, and from there it's going to tier outward. And each tier can have 2 or 3 subcategories. Sometimes referred to as instant command system, the purpose of ICS is to ensure responder and public safety, achieve incident management goals, ensure the effective use of resources. Make sure we're not doing anything out of the ordinary, wasting money and time where it doesn't need to be wasted. Uh, we do the best with what we have. It controls duplication of efforts and freelancing. You've heard me say freelancing multiple times. I don't want you ever freelancing, doing whatever you want to do because you think that is what's best for you. You got to work as a team. So yes, you may not have the glorified job, but you have an important job. Limit span of control: one supervisor for 3 to 7 workers. We try not to go higher than that, based because you don't want them to be overwhelmed. Organization levels includes sections, branches, divisions, and groups. And they'll have a breakdown and talk about these here later on in the chapter. Roles and responsibility of the ICS. But roles and responsibility, we've got the command staff, we've got finance, logistics, operations, planning, and then the overall command staff, which is going to include your PIO, which is your public information officers. They're the ones that talks to the media, the newspapers, the news channels, nation and local. Logistics, they're the ones that usually gather. We need more ambulances, we need more fire hose, We need food, we need fuel. Logistics is the one that handles that. Finance, that's your money man. And then the planning stage is like, okay, well, where are we going to have these guys rest at? We're on a 5-day fire. We can't have them running 24/7. So we got them on 12-hour shifts. So where are they going to sleep? Are they going to sleep on the ground? They're going to sleep in their trucks? Where are we going to have them housed at? Command incident commander is in charge of the overall incident. It's important to know who's in charge or who the IC is and how to communicate with IC and where the command post is going to be located. An IC may turn over command to someone else with more experience in a critical area. Usually not going to downgrade incident command. They're usually going to upgrade it. So it's either going to be the same level they are, if not higher. Finance responsible for documenting all expenditures of an incident for reimbursement, from fuel to food to tires, especially if it's a big, large grass fire or terrain fire. Logistics responsible for communications of equipment, facilities, food, water, fuel, lighting, medical supplies, additional ambulances, and other fire personnel for replacements as need be. Operations, at a very large, complex instance, responsible for managing the tactical operations, usually handled by the IC. So the incident commander's in charge, and then he's going to have an operations supervisor who's going to oversee the fire grounds themselves. Planning solves problems as they arise. Again, like, are we going to get them in a hotel for the night? Or are we going to put them up in tents? How are we going to house personnel at a long incident? And develops an incident action plan. And then we have our command staff. The safety officer monitors the scene. They have authority to shut the operation down if they see anything that is unsafe. You'll have a PIO officer, which is public information officer. They talk to the media in clear, understandable information. And a liaison officer relays information and concerns amongst command staff to the general staff and other agencies. So all of your lower ranking officials, from regular just EMTs and paramedics that aren't the white shirts or collared shirts or brass or anything like that, he's got a liaison officer. It's basically the middleman between the two to make sure both sides are happy and doing their job. Communication information management. Communication has historically been the weakest point of any major incident. A lot of stuff gets lost in the rubbish in communication. It is recommended that communications be integrated. So all agencies should be able to communicate quickly, effortlessly through radio. So it shouldn't be that just because our neighbors to our north doesn't have the same radio system or the same channels, but they have the same range of frequency. So they ought to be able to dial over to our frequency or vice versa for us to communicate. Communications allow for accountability and instant communication. You've got to have, so it doesn't matter whether it's you and your partner on the truck, you both should have a portable radio. That way both of you have communications with dispatch and or an incident commander. Mobilization and deployment. Check with your incident commander when you arrive. Again, no freeloading, no freelancing. You got to check with the incident commander. Report to your supervisor for initial briefing. He or she may tell you where you need to report to, and this person is going to be your point of contact. Record keeping allows for tracking of time spent on actual incidents for reimbursement procedures or problems. For instance, if it is a national event, like a major hurricane or whatever, that comes from the federal, the funding. So they keep track of all your hours worked, as well as how many times the ambulance rolled on a call, how many patients it transported. Those are all funds that can be regenerated and paid for by the federal government. but you got to have a paper trail. Accountability means keeping your supervisor advised of your location, actions, and completed tasks. I know some of you don't want to let your supervisors know where you're at, especially where you work now. Because if he or she knew exactly what you were doing 24/7 at your job, you may not have a job because a lot of students like to slack off. They hide in the break room or they take longer breaks than normal and this, that, and other. So they don't notify their supervisors of all that because they know they'll get docked for it. So once the incident's been stabilized, the IC will determine which resources are needed and which one can be sent home. Usually the furthest ones are sent home first. EMS response with the incident command system preparedness involves the decisions made or basic planning done before the incident occurs. You're going to practice this. No matter where you get a job, they're going to have practice. You're going to have an incident. It may be a simple tabletop exercise, which means, yes, it sounds funny with the little Matchbox Hot Wheel cars. You'll have a tabletop exercise. Or it may be you have a walkthrough where you're all given your clipboard and everybody goes through their assigned roles. It involves decision and planning about the most likely natural disasters in the area. Your EMS agency should have a written disaster plan and regularly carry it out and train on it. Knock the cobwebs off of it. So you want to do a scene size up, make the initial assessment and some preliminary decisions. 3 basic questions. Do I have? What do I have? What do I need? And what do I need to do? Those are your 3 basic questions when you pull up. And one of my dear medics, we would always know when we were outnumbered as far as we did not even have enough resources, enough police cars, enough of anything. He always kept the same voice, same monotone. He'd pull up, he'd give you a nice, great scene size up. But if he ever gave you the scene size up where it started off with, here's the deal, you might as well call the next 2 towns because you don't have enough in your town to take care of what he just pulled up on. So he didn't even realize he was saying that until we pointed it out and we played a couple of his instances where we had a mass casualty and where he led off with that, and then ones where it was just like a little 2-car wreck and there was only 2 patients. He kept the same voice. He never raised it, never got fast, never got slow. Same depth, same monotone voice. Only difference is he started off with, here's the deal. Establish a command. That may be you. You get there, you got 5 cars, you got 20 people. They're all standing around. You're going to check on scene. Medic 2, we're on scene. Establish in command, which means you're the one that everybody's going to talk to, and you're going to start assigning the roles. Now, granted, when brass gets there, or the white shirts, or somebody higher certification than you can relinquish command to them. But if they think that everything is going well under your command, they can keep it in your command. They don't have to take it. So the command should be established by the most senior official. Notify the 2 others responding should go out. Medic 3, we're on scene, we're establishing command. Medic 3 is in charge, or Paramedic Pearson will be the IC. That way, dispatch has a record of who's in charge, and when other people start arriving, they can say, you need to report to, and they'll give the name. Necessary resources should be requested. Command staff must be established early. Communications, if possible, use a face-to-face communication, limit radio traffic. This day and age, everybody has scanners. They love to listen to see what they can pick up radio traffic wise. If your communication radio uses 10 codes or signals, try to avoid that. Up north, they use 10 codes. Down south, they use signals. Well, I don't know what their signals are. They don't know what my 10 codes are, and we're not able to communicate. So sometimes it's reliable just to do plain old text over the radio. Be sure there are backups in place. The medical branch of ICS. Uh, that's just your medical branch of your incident command system. Primary role is to triage, treat, and transport of injured people. Because at a mass casualty, you're going to have a fire commander, you're going to have an EMS commander, you may have a police commander, but you will have an overall incident commander that's in charge of the entire scene, and each one of those is a different branch underneath. So as you can see, the EMS branch, they have triage, treatment, and transport. So under the EMS official or commander, he or she may have a triage officer, a treatment officer, and a transportation officer. So as you can see, they can just spider web down. The further down they go, the more uh, tiers they can have off of each branch. Triage supervisors in charge of counting and prioritizing your patients, ensures that every patient receives initial assessment on his or her condition. Do not begin treatment until all patients have been triaged. Triage as a general should take you about 5 minutes, 10 tops, to take care of all these patients as far as make sure airway and breathing circulation's there and looking for any gross hemorrhage. All right, your treatment supervisor locates and sets up the treatment area with a tier for each priority, such as your black tags, your red, your green, and your yellow. Typically, they're marked with either a designation with a tarp or with tags hanging from a tree limb, if that's so be it. Um, ensures that the secondary triage is performed and adequate patient care is given. Assist with moving patients to the transport area. So it's not just their job to go through that. They may actually physically have to help, get their hands dirty, load, walk, carry. Now, your transportation supervisor coordinates and transports and distributes patients to the appropriate receiving hospitals. They document and track the number of patients, transport vehicles, patient transported, and facility destination. Basically, we're going to spread the patients amongst the city. We do not want to overload one particular hospital. Spread the wealth, as they'd like to say. Don't overload one. Send them to level ones, level twos, level threes, but only send what's required. Don't send like all your level three patients to a level one, and what should go to a level one, you send to a level three. Make sure they go to the right designation. Staging supervisor should be assigned when the scene requires multi-vehicle or multi-agency response. So emergency vehicles must have permission to enter the scene and only drive in a directed area. So basically we want to go in a one-way direction. We don't want to see who has the biggest siren, loudest horn, has the right of way. You don't want to be going head to head. You want to be able to go in one way and exit another. And that staging area should always be established away from the scene. Never on top of one another, because you're going to end up in a traffic jam. And when you're ready to go, the people behind you or in front of you are not ready to go. And so you're stuck there. Physicians on scene, even though they mean well, sometimes can be a hinder. They can get in the way, but they're there to make difficult decisions, provide secondary triage and treatment. Sometimes they may even do what they call treat and treat, which means they treated on scene and deemed them they don't have to go to the hospital. I've already taken care of them. I am the doctor. They get all the paperwork and everything signed that needs to be signed, and they're set free. They provide on-scene medical direction for the EMT, so you don't have to get on the radio. You don't have to get on the cellular phone and talk to a doctor at a hospital. you have a doctor on scene. And they provide care and treatment sector as appropriate. So again, that treat and street mentality where they can treat them and cut them loose, or maybe even do some minor suturing right there on scene and take them from maybe a level 2 down to a level 3. Make them a walking wounded. So instead of making them a red category patient, they may deem them a yellow or a green. And so downgrade them for you. Take some of the task off of you. Rehab supervisor establishes an area that provides protection from the elements and situation. So rehab is where the responders' needs are met for rest, nutrition, food, protection, fluids, out of the elements. Some even go as far as to bring in portable showers so you can actually clean up, especially if you're doing those 12-hour rotations. So basically, the rule of thumb is you'll do 12-hour rotation, and then that's 12 hours of downtime, and then that downtime, within a 4-hour period, you're going to do some, of course, eating and relaxation, but shower up, and then 8 hours of downtime of rest before you go back out for another 12-hour rotation. Monitors responders' vital signs. Monitors their signs for stress. That is a given. They're going to get your vital signs. They're going to get your EKG. They're going to get your glucometer reading. They're going to get your height and weight. They're going to get all that. They're making sure that you're not losing more fluids than what you're taking in, because now you became a patient yourself versus just a responder or a helper. Extrication and special rescue determines the type of equipment and resources needed for a situation. Usually under the function of the EMS branch of an incident command system. Morgue supervisor, nobody wants this job. Works with area medical examiners, coroners, monetary assistants, disaster monetary assistants, teams, and law enforcement agencies to coordinate removal of bodies and or body parts. The morgue areas should be out of view of living patients and other responders, and depending on how bad it is, they may actually bring in a cooler, meaning one of those 18-wheeler box trucks that are refrigerated, because they may put patients in those until they can get them to the morgue. So mass casualty incidents involves 3 or more patients, places a great demand on the EMS system, and has a potential to produce multi-casualties. And casualties just usually means fatalities or deaths. Now, depends on where you're at. Casualties can mean injured, but typically casualties means that someone is deceased or has died in the incident. All systems have different protocols and when to declare an MCI or initiate the ICS system. So you'll have to get familiar with what your service says. Some may say 5 or more patients. Some may say 2 or more. It just depends on where you go to work and what is in their protocols. Basically, if you and your team cannot treat and transport all injured patients at the same time, it's going to be considered an MCI. Never leave the scene with patients until there's at least someone else to take care of other patients that are sick or wounded. You don't want to get caught for abandonment. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't mean that ambulance has to stay. You still have you or a paramedic on scene. If you've got somebody that can take that ambulance with the crew, great, and leave you on scene, you're still there. You're not abandoning your patients. You're still triaging and treating your patients. If there is multi-patients and not enough resources to handle them without abandoning them, you should declare an MCI. Get on the radio, tell them this is an MCI request. Let your dispatcher know. They have a set protocol themselves on what they need to do, who they need to notify, additional resources. If I've got a lot of walking wounded, a lot of people that are able to walk, I don't necessarily need an ambulance for them. I may ask them to contact the school district and get a bus and bring the bus out there and put one EMT, maybe two EMTs on a bus with 30 category green patients that are what they consider walking wounded. Triage means to sort. Basically, the word triage means to sort patients based on the severity of their injuries. Assessment is brief. Patient's condition categorizes are basic. We're not going into grave detail that they've got a lacerated liver or a punctured spleen. We say we check the ABCs, we look for gross hemorrhage. Basically, what are my life threats? And do I have any? Primary triage is done in the field. Secondary is brought to the treatment center and they're re-triaged just to make sure that one of us did not mess up and make them a category green when they should have been a yellow, or a yellow and they should have been a red, or vice versa. So that's where the secondary is done. 4 common categories. Again, we got immediate, which is red, delayed is yellow, minor or minimum is green, and expectant is black, likely to die or they've already died, or they're dead. So here's a little flow chart to show you. Red tag, first priority, immediate. Patient need immediate care and transport. These patients are first and transported as soon as possible. Yellow, they're delayed. Patients whose treatment and transport can be temporarily delayed. And again, they mean temporary. I'd say within the hour, they can be transported. Green tag, third priority, minimum, walking wounded. Patients who require minimum to no treatment and can be delayed until the last. We're looking at probably 2-3 hours before we transport them. And fourth priority, which is your black tag, they're expectant. Patients who have already died or if they are about to die or have little chance of survival. They do not have salvageable injuries. They are considered black tagged. Now, once you've triaged and you got all the help you need on scene, if you have time, then yeah, we go back to the black tags to make sure we didn't miss something. And then we can put forth the effort to try to revive a black tag patient. But not until we get everybody else taken care of and we've got all the help there we need. Here's a tagging system. We have what they call the triage tag, which is you tie it on their toe or their wrist and you tear off the color. And then you have your waterproof triage tape, which is nothing more than landscaping tape. But somebody will wear it and you just peel it how much you need and make a nice little bow tie or square knot or however you want to do it, but you attach it to the patient, either wrist, toe, somewhere that it is visible for them to see that they've been categorized already. STAR triage stands for Simple Triage and Rapid Transport. That will be on a test. You're probably going to see it. The first step is to call out to patients and direct them to an easily identifiable landmark, such as you show up on a call, 2 or 3 cars in an intersection, and you got 15 people that you can guess standing around. You don't know that they're all victims, but there's patients, there are people there, and you still see people inside the car. You're going to get on your PA system, public address system, on your speaker system of the ambulance, and you're going to key it up and you're going to ask, if you're not part of the accident, or if you were part of the accident and can walk, I need you to report to. And if you're at a convenience store right there, there's a right across the street, ask them go to that convenience store parking lot. Get them in a designated location. Now don't tell them a street name because they may not be from here and may not know what the street is that they're even on. So make sure you give them a landmark that they can see and send them to that location. Secondary step is to direct towards non-walking patients, assess the respiratory rate, hemodynamic status, and neurological status. Jumpstart is for your pediatric patients less than 8 years of age or weigh less than 100 pounds. Begins by identifying the walking wounded. Several differences within the respiratory status assessment compared to the START triage. So as you know, START, they wanted you to check first what? They wanted you to check the patient for gross hemorrhage, this, that, and the other. Under Jumpstart, they want to make sure that the patient has an open and patent airway. So get appropriate rate of respirations, check hemodynamic status, and neurological status. Again, the test question they ask about Jumpstart is typically, who do we use these for? 8 years or younger, or people that are less than 100 pounds. Your triage special considerations, patients who are hysterical and disruptive to rescue efforts may need to be handled as an immediate priority patient because it could be a closed head injury. A responder who becomes sick or injured during a rescue should be handled the same as an immediate priority patient. Don't let them tell you that I'll go last. Take care of everybody else first. Remember, it is me, we, them. So if your coworker, one of the rescuers, becomes ill or sick for any reason, it could be simple nausea and vomiting because of morning sickness because she just found out she's pregnant. They're classified as an immediate category patient. Rescuers take high priority. Identify patients as contaminated or decontaminated in a hazmat incident. So do they need to be scrubbed and cleaned, or have they already been scrubbed and cleaned? And then destination decisions. All patients triage is immediate. Red or delayed yellow should be transported by ground or air. In large situations, a bus may be necessary to transport the walking wounded. If you're going to be loading a hospital up with a lot of patients, make sure you notify them. Don't let them get notified by you just sending the first ambulance with 3 or 4 patients on it. Like, oh yeah, we got a major bus accident. We got like 75 patients. You got more coming your way. At least if you're on scene and you know you got that many, notify the receiving hospitals. That way they can start prepping and calling in off-duty personnel to help. And destination decision. Then patients with delayed categories can be transported 2 or 3 at a time. Finally, as slightly injured are transported. Expectant patients who are still alive would be received treatment at this time and transported last. And treat victims. Dead victims are handled and transported according to the SOPs of your area, which is your standard operating guidelines or procedures. Disaster management is a widespread event and disrupts the functions and resources of the community. It threatens lives and property. Many disasters may not involve personal injury, but many disasters, floods, fires, hurricanes, result in widespread injuries over a period of time. You may not find these patients for a while because they may have gone into hiding due to the severe weather or the floods or the major wildfires. Your role as a responder is to request and report to the IC for assignment or assigned task. A casualty collection area may be established in a disaster with overwhelming number of casualties. So coordinate through the incident command system in the same way as any other branches of the area of open operation. Introduction to hazardous materials. Again, these are your glowworm people. These are the guys that are firefighters that really want to be hazmat technicians. More power to them. I was just in the, what they call the first responder role, so I had the basic upon basic. I could get into the monkey suit, but it was not my priority. I was not one of the glowworms that went up there and played around in it and cleaned it and stopped the leaks and all that. I was in the decon side of it. That was about it. So when you arrive at a possible hazardous incident, first step back and assess the situation. We like to use at a hazmat rule of thumb or rule of pinky. And all that means is if it is a major wreck and you see hazardous materials vehicles, you hold your thumb up. And if you can't cover up the scene with your thumb, you're way too damn close. Now, granted, same scene, you see those same vehicles, tanker cars, whatever it may be, but now you see a little bit of smoke, offsetting smoke or gas, and you don't know if it is on fire or what. You hold up your pinky, and if you can't cover that scene up with your pinky, you're really too close. So that's our rule of thumb, rule of pinky and rule of thumb. So rushing into an unsafe scene can be catastrophic. If overcome, you become a patient yourself. You can die instantaneous. There are certain gases out there that when your body inhales them, it turns your lungs straight into a liquid, 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 and you drowned within about 30 seconds. According to Haswapler, first responders at the awareness level should have significant training or experience to demonstrate the following competencies: an understanding of what a hazardous substance is or are, and the risk associated with them, and an understanding of the potential outcomes of the incident. Areas of training include the ability to recognize the presence of a hazardous substance, the ability to identify the hazards, if possible, an understanding of the role of the first responder, and the ability to determine the need for additional resources. So basically, you know when you're outmatched and you get the proper people on the way. You don't wait for, well, let me just see what I can do. Maybe we can handle it in-house here. And then when it starts snowballing and you realize, oh, I can't handle it in-house, you're way behind 8 ball now. You got to play a lot of catch up. Um, Hazardous material poses unreasonable risk to damage or injury if it is not properly controlled during handling, storage, manufacture, processing, packing, use, and disposal and transportation. Take time to look at the whole scene. Identify critical visual indicators like what kind of vehicle is it? What kind of tanker vehicle is it? Is it on a rail car system? Is it on an 18-wheeler? Is it a box car? Take time to look at what your surroundings are. So hazardous materials may be involved in any of the following situations: truck or train crash in which a substance is leaking from a tank car or tank truck, a leak, fire, or other emergency at an industrial plant, refinery, or other complex, or leak or rupture of an underground natural gas pipeline. Deterioration of an underground fuel tank and seepage of oil or gas into the ground. A buildup of methane or other products of waste uh, is being collected in sewers, so we get a lot of sewer gas buildup. They may decide to blow and manhole covers go flying, uh, debris goes flying. So motor vehicle crashes resulting in ruptured gas tanks. Occupancy and location. A wide variety of chemicals are stored in locations such as warehouses, hospitals, laboratories. industrial complexes, residential garages, bowling alleys, home improvement and garden centers, restaurants. Use your senses. Senses can help safely use are those of sight and sound. Yeah, you don't want to use taste, and you definitely don't want to use smell. Now, granted, if that's all that you do, you start smelling the odors, get out of the area because those odors can overcome you. So using any of their sensors that bring you in the proximity of the chemical should be done with caution and or avoided. So clues at the scene or for look at clues from the scene or heard from a distance may enable you to take precautionary steps. Container is a vessel that holds the material. Often the type of container, we got to know their type, their size, the material, the construction provide important clues about what it's carrying. The two categories are bulk and non-bulk. Now, the easiest way you can look at that, non-bulk, you go to HEB and you buy a spray bottle of Windex. That's non-bulk. You go to Sam's Club and you buy the two 1-gallon jugs of Windex. Now that is bulk because you're buying in large quantities. Container volume, bulk containers are found in buildings that rely on the need for storage large quantities of particular chemicals. These are often surrounded by secondary containment systems, whether it be a concrete barrier about knee-high around it, or it may be concrete bags or cement bags around it as a barrier device to help slow any kind of leakage. Large volume horizontal tanks are also very common. They look like a rocket ship going straight up and down. Usually we see a lot of those around the hospitals because that's what their liquid oxygen is in, is those vertical horizontal tanks. Totes have the capacity range from 119 to 703 gallons. Contents of any type of chemical, including flammable liquids, corrosive food grade liquids, and or oxidizers. No secondary containment systems needed for these. And next slide is showing you these are what they consider totes, commonly encounter bulk storage vessels. They can be stacked on top of one another. Again, they can store from 119 to 703 gallons of whatever they want to put in them. Intermold tanks are both shipping and storage vessels, hold between 500 and 6,000 gallons. They can be pressurized or non-pressurized. And again, one of these looks like this. They're usually going to have a frame. They're going to be round, cylinder in shape. They're going to be what they call beveled on either end, where there's sort of bulging on either end versus flat. So they'll be beveled to allow for expansion. And these are ones that can be put on their cruise ships, or not just cruise ships, but ships for sea travel and or rail cars and or 18-wheelers, because they can stack on top of one another. That's what the square framework is for, that they can be stacked on top of one another and locked into one another. Non-bulk storage vessels hold commonly used chemicals or commercial and industrial chemicals. Drums are easily recognizable, barrel-shaped containers. Generally, the nature of the chemical dictates the construction of a drum. Non-bulk bags are common used for storage of solids and powders. May be constructed of plastic, paper, or plastic lined paper. Pesticide bags must be labeled with specific information. Carboys, transports, and common corrosives, other type of chemicals, glass, plastic containers, steel containers, they typically hold somewhere between 5 and 15 gallons of product, often placed in a protective wood, foam, fiberglass, and or steel box. And this is what a carboy container looks like. Now, some of you that work in industrial settings and you got your cleaning materials may be stored in this. Maybe some of your oils, like if you work at a restaurant that uses a lot of oil for cooking, this is what they store them in. Non-bulk storage vessels, uninsulated compressed gas cylinders are used to store substances such as nitrogen, argon, helium, oxygen. We have a couple of them in our classroom, the oxygen tanks. Those are non-bulk storage vessels. They're uninsulated compressed gas cylinders. Your DOT, Department of Transportation marking system, labels and placards and other markings are used on buildings, packages, boxes, and containers. Marking systems indicate the presence of a hazardous material from a safe distance and provide clues about the substance involved. And you've all seen them. When you're at a railroad track, you see the rail cars going by, you see these placard systems. Look at the 18-wheelers that go by you or you go by them, you see the placard system. This is just some of them. But you have what they call the ERG, which is going to be the Emergency Response Guidebook. Every ambulance is going to have it, every police car will have it, as well as every fire truck. You can even get one for yourself. You can order them. Typically, they're free when they first come out. They come out about every 4 years. They're updated. But it tells you what the placard is that you see. And then if it has a number, it'll tell you what number to go to in the book. That's not the page number. That may be the chemical number that would be in the upper right corner. So you'll go to it. You'll go to that number. It'll tell you what that chemical is. And it's going to give you about 30 minutes worth of help. It's going to tell you how far you need to evacuate. It's going to tell you what you need to do first aid wise if someone comes in contact with these chemicals, what you need for flushing the skin, flushing the eyes, whatever it is that you need to be prepared for. After that 30 minutes is up, hopefully hazmat is on scene. Not saying they will be, but we're hoping they are. Or you've gotten to a phone and you've called Chemtrec. Chemtrec is the same as poison control. Only difference, poison controls deal with medications. Chemtrec deals with chemicals. Just like poison control, have a pen and paper handy because they're going to spit out all kinds of information to you and you want to be able to write it down so you don't have to call them back. Placards are diamond-shaped indicators placed on 4 sides of a transport vehicle, so they do have to have it on 4 locations. Labels are smaller versions of placards placed on 4 sides of individual boxes and, of course, smaller packages. Some of you, if you've ever ordered anything from Amazon and it had like a battery in it, there was probably placards or labels on that box on at least 4 sides of the 6 or the 8 sides that let you know that there was some kind of battery in there that could be corrosive if it is busted open. These are some of the placards. Okay, this particular one is a multi-carrier. So it's one 18-wheeler. It looks like it's a tanker car, but it has 1993 flammable. You have 1268 that's flammable. Another 1268 flammable, but level 3 that's white. and then a level 3 that is red. It's carrying a corrosive of 1824, that's a level 8, and it's also carrying a corrosive of 3082, that's a level 9. So each one of those individual slots in that tanker card, they're carrying 5 different chemicals in there. They have to be placarded over certain gallons or weight. They have to be placarded. The DOT system does not require all chemical shipments be marked. So in most cases, packages or cargo tanks must contain a certain amount of hazardous material before the placard is required. So some chemicals are hazardous, and shipping is any amount requires the use of a placard or label. Depends on what they're shipping, will determine if it needs to be placarded or labeled. This is what the EOG response guidebook look. The new one is a 2024. This is a picture of the old one. It's a 2020. It has roughly information on about 4,000 chemicals. When you call Chemtrek, their 1-800 number, they probably have double, if not triple that amount of chemicals in their database that they have access to give you information about. MSDS sheets, commonly called material safety data sheets, common source of information about a particular chemical. Wherever you go to work, even right now, if you work at a fast food restaurant, you have a binder that is referred to as MSDS sheets, and does not matter what you have, everything from your cooking oils to certain seasonings to Windex to mop the floor stuff, whatever you have that is a liquid or chemical of any source that can be labeled as a chemical, you have an MSDS sheet on, and it's usually kept in the manager's office. Provide basic information about what the makeup of the chemical is, what are the potential hazards, appropriate first aid in case someone comes in contact with it, and other pertinent negative information about it. Shipping papers, also known as a bill of lading, okay, require whenever material are transported from one place to another. Includes the name, the address of the shipper and receiver, identifies the material being shipped, and specify the quantity and weight of each part of the shipment. Chemtrek, like I already said, they're going to be your friends if you have to get in contact with them. Chemtrek is operated by American Chemistry Council, serves a valuable technical information resource for responders. Identify, despite the availability and resources, identify may be difficult. So we always carry binoculars in the ambulance. I carry them in my personal vehicle. You being a first responder now, you should get in the habit of carrying binoculars. Just a cheap set of binoculars you can keep in the glove box. We want to check and see if there's any presence of a visual cloud or strange looking smoke that is escaping from a substance. Leak or spill from a tank, container, truck, or rail car. Unusual, strong, noxious, or harsh odors in the area. If any signs suggest that a hazmat incident has occurred, stop at a safe distance, park upwind, uphill, call for a hazmat team, rapidly assess the information because you want to give them as much information on what they're coming to as you can. And try to provide as much information as possible. Do not render the scene and do not leave the area until you've been cleared. So once you come out of the scene, do not re-enter it, but don't leave the scene until you've been deemed you're no longer needed and you've been cleared. Hazmat scene operations. Use the ambulance PA system to get people out of the area. Alert individuals near the scene and direct them to move. establish your zones. You have what they call a cold zone, a warm zone, a hot zone. Hot is usually right there where the incident is occurring or the spillage is occurring. Warm is the outlying most outer ring. And then the cold zone is where you don't have to be in your gowns or be in your scrubbing material. So here's your hot zone. This is the area immediate surrounding the release. Most contaminated area, all personnel must be deconned when they leave the hot zone. So the guy in the blue suit is your actual hazardous technician. He's a hazmat tech. He's the actual official glowworm. He's got an air tank SCBA underneath there, and he's probably in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt because inside there, that is the best weight loss suit there is. You can lose 15, 20 pounds of water weight. And you'll see it when you take your rubber boots off. Water will just pour out of the bottom of it. But the little swimming pool you see there, there's like 3 of them. And you'll start in one. We'll do the primary rinse, and then you'll go to the secondary one, and we're gonna put another rinse on you, but now we're gonna scrub you. And then the third one is we're gonna do a final scrubbing and then a final rinse before you step out, and we take you into a designated area for just to take off the duct tape that's closing up the wrist area and around your boots. And that's when we take you out of your suit and we take your vital signs again, get your weight, heart monitor, all that stuff, because we're going to do it before we put you in the suit, and then we'll do it again after the fact. And then one of the last things before the end of the session here, as far as deconning, then the scrubbers, as you can see, the ones in the yellow, they're in what they call a class B suit, not a level A, because their air tank's on the outside. So they're wearing just a regular SCBA and just look like a painter suit. But they still got their gloves and boots on, and they're duct taped so nothing can get in those. And so they will also be scrubbed down before they're taken out of those suits. Warm zone is where the personnel and equipment transition in and out of the hot zone. Contains control points for access to the hot zone and the decontaminated area. Decon process is removing or neutralizing the property, disposing of the hazardous materials, getting it off of you. Whatever you got into, we want to get it off because we don't want you tracking it through the house, tracking it through the building, or tracking it back to the fire station or fire truck or the ambulance. So we're going to scrub you down. Cold zone, that's your safe area where personnel do not need to wear any specialized protective clothing. This is typically where the EMS personnel are going to receive their patients, because the patient, yes, even though they may be in respiratory arrest, there'll be someone taking care of them, but they're going to go through the scrubbing process, decon, they're going to go through the warm zone, and they're going to, before they go into the cold zone. So yeah, they may be in respiratory arrest, not breathing. Somebody's going to take their airway and breathe for them. But they got to go through that, because if I put them back that ambulance and I take them to the ER without going through that process, I just contaminated that entire emergency room, much less the back of my unit. Or if I even remotely put them on a helicopter, patient, the pilot comes down with the chemicals, cause them to go unconscious, then we just lost 4 lives there because they're going to crash. The role of the EMT at the hazmat operations, your job is to report to the designated area outside the hot zone and warm zone, provide triage, treatment, transport, and rehab. NFPA 704, Hazardous Materials Classification Standards, classifies hazardous materials according to health hazard, toxicity levels, fire hazard, chemical reactive hazard, and special hazards. That is a number you might want to remember, NFPA 704, Hazardous Materials Classification. Toxicity level measures the health risk that a substance poses to someone who has come in contact with it. The higher the number, the greater the toxicity. So remember those placards we saw a little while ago? Some of them said a level 3, some said 8, one went as high as 9. Those are all risk factors as far as the higher the number, the greater the toxicity. And so here's the toxic levels. So level 0, little, no hazard, no protection needed. 1, slight hazard, SCBA level C suit. 2, slight hazard, SCBA level C suit only. 3, extreme hazard, full protection. No exposed skin, level A or B suit. And 4, minimum exposure causes death. So specialized hazmat gear, so that's your level A suit. PPE levels indicate the amount and type of protective gear that you would need. So level A, the most hazardous, require full encapsulation, chemical resistant protective clothing that provides full body protection, as well as SCBA and special sealed equipment. Level B requires non-encapsulated protective clothing, or clothing that is designed to protect against particular hazards. Requires breathing devices that contain their own oxygen or air supply, such as an SCBA, and of course, eye protection. Level C requires the use of a non-permeable clothing and eye protection. Full mask, that's just like your painter's mask. It's got the 2 canisters on either side. It doesn't have to be the SCBA. That you're taking outside air and it's being filtered through the canister before you breathe it. And level D requires work uniforms such as coveralls and affords minimal protection. All of them are going to require the use of gloves. I highly suggest eye protection for those as well. And here's just a picture showing you the level A, level B, level C, and D protection. So I would wear goggles here. Here you got the respirator full mask, but the canisters are what's filtering your air. Here's your SCBA, it's on the outside, and here everything's on the inside. So caring for patients that have been exposed is practically only to provide the simplest assessment and essential care in the hazard zones and decon area. Because of the dangers, the time it requires to decontaminate them, and time constraints, and bulky protective gear. It's going to limit your movement. So you care for patients must address the following 2 issues. Any trauma that is a result from another related mechanism, such as vehicle collision or fire or explosion. The injury or harm that have resulted from an explosive to toxic materials, exposed to toxic materials. Most serious injuries and deaths from hazard materials results in airway and breathing problems. Some cases, hazmat team may find a patient who needs immediate treatment before decon area has been set up. They are going to take care of the patient. You got to take in consideration that if these patients breathe this bad chemicals in, every time you ventilate them and allow them to exhale, and they haven't been properly deconned, guess what you're breathing in? Those same chemicals, because they're exhaling those chemicals. So you'll need to increase the amount of protective clothing you wear, including a CBA, 2 pair of gloves, goggles or face shield, protective coat, respiratory protection, a disposable fluid improvised apron. And we're done. I told you we'd get through it. I just wish it was at a better circumstance and I was there with you. But You will have some questions on your test about these last two chapters, just not a whole lot. So yes, I know I went through them kind of quick. I would definitely go back over them just as a review. You'll have access to these chapters that I've uploaded as a review. I won't take them down to the end of the after everybody graduates. So if you need it, utilize it. So if y'all do have any questions, email me and I'll set up a Zoom link that we can go after hours. I was unable to do it today because of my doctor's appointments and my meeting with the school and getting this chapter up. So I was unable to get that Zoom link up and going today, but I hope to make that a priority tomorrow morning after my physical therapy. So again, do not hesitate. Email me if need be. I'll answer the questions the best of my ability. And I look forward to seeing y'all in class. And as soon as I know that I'm cleared and I can return, I will definitely let you guys know. I'm working on getting some help in there to get y'all cleared on your classroom skills so they can do skills checkoffs. So I know Kai was there a couple of classes last Friday. As much as I want y'all to do scenario based, and that's what y'all want, when I only have one instructor there that's helping, I need them to help get y'all cleared for your in-house skills so they can do the instructor sign-offs. So don't badger them about doing out of hospital type stuff or scenario based. We will have time at that between now and your graduation of doing that. I need y'all to help each other get prepared, do their skills, get them all done as much as you can on their peers so we can get this behind us. And all I got is your course final and got your National Registry skills and then your National Registry written. Y'all have a good day. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm here for you. Talk to you later. Bye.